Hey everybody, I just got back from watching Finding Dory. Then I had to rush home and watch Game 6 of the finals, which, crazy. So the Cavaliers won and there's going to be a Game 7. So everybody on Sunday watch Game 7 because not every day that happens. That's a pretty big deal. I don't know who to root for, but that's crazy. Game 7. So everyone watch that. But Finding Dory, this was not a sequel I was too excited for because Finding Nemo, I really do like it, but it hasn't always been my personal favorite Pixar film. I'm a bigger Toy Story fan, and I really like The Incredibles. I've been waiting years for their sequel, and I can't believe that we've gotten a Monsters, Inc. 2, a Finding Nemo 2, a Cars 2, and then we're going to get Cars 3 literally before we get an Incredibles 2, but it's finally happening, so I'll stop complaining. But the concept for Finding Nemo isn't the worst. It's just that it's going to be it's going to obviously be a ripoff of the first movie because once again, we're finding someone, we're traveling the ocean, and you're obviously going to fall and run into a lot of the same situations that the first one did. So you're basically going to do, copying. And in a lot of ways, this movie does copy and try to recreate what made the first one so good. But while it does that, it also introduces a lot of new characters, there's a lot of new jokes, there's a lot more of Dory, which was something I wasn't too excited about. I didn't really want to see a home movie revolve around Dory because a lot of sequels will focus a lot of the sequels will focus more on side characters from the first movie. You got The Hangover, then Hangover 2 focused way more on Alan. A lot of people didn't like that. Despicable Me had a sequel in Minions. A lot of people didn't like that it focused on the Minions so much. They didn't think they could handle a whole movie. I personally liked it, but I get that a lot of people didn't enjoy Minions. So what I'm trying to say is that Dory was a funny character from Finding Nemo, but can she hold an entire movie to herself? And the answer is yes. This is one of the funniest movies I've seen all year. It's also one of the most touching movies I've seen all year. I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but you're going to know that there's obviously backstory, and it shows a younger Dory, which honestly is the cutest thing that Pixar has ever created and might actually be the cutest character I've ever seen. She's someone that every single word that the young Dory says melts your heart. Like you're tearing up over every little thing she's saying because it is just the cutest little thing that's ever been created. And that's the moment when I knew this is going to be something great because I could hardly focus. No one else in the theater could focus because that was the cutest thing that's ever been made, ever. It won't be topped. I'd be surprised. But then you have the rest of the movie, and Marlin and Nemo are in it a lot. I didn't think that they would have them in it as much. I thought Dory was going to go on the adventure alone, but she doesn't. They join along. I was very confused as to why Marlin would want Nemo to come along because we just spent an entire movie looking for him, and he's still a bit young. It's only a year after the first movie, but he brings him with anyway, and I mean, after you get kind of past the point of why would Marlin bring Nemo, you end up forgetting about it, and we kind of go into an enjoyable movie. See, with the first one, the whole movie was a whole traveling across the entire ocean. We ran into a lot of colorful characters, and we traveled to different places of the ocean, and the ocean just felt so big. This one, we travel through the ocean for a couple minutes. We run into those turtles from the first movie again, Crush and Squirt. We run into them again, but that's how they travel the ocean in this movie, and then they end up right in California where the rest of the movie takes place. So already this movie, scope-wise, is a lot smaller, a lot more contained to this one area. But the nice thing is there's a lot of awesome characters. There's a new whale called Destiny. There's a beluga whale that has sonar, and there's Becky the loon, and there's the 2 sea lions, and there's the octopus, and honestly, yeah, see, that's how memorable these new characters are, is the fact that I just saw the movie, and I remember every single character that I saw. Oh, and then there's just the otters, and yeah, they're pretty awesome too. So yeah, this movie is just really cute, but it's also really funny, and it's not as moving as because they just had Inside Out last year. It's not as moving as that, and it's not even as moving as Finding Nemo. It doesn't have that same emotional punch, because story-wise, Finding Nemo already is going to have more of an emotional punch because it has to do with a missing child. That alone gives you a bigger emotional punch. In this movie, it's the child trying to find their parents again. And if it was done from the parents' point of view, it's going to have a bigger emotional punch, but it's also going to be ripping off Finding Nemo completely, so you can't really do that. So, yeah, it's basically Finding Nemo flipped around. This time the child's trying to find the parent. It just doesn't have that same emotional punch because I guess we don't get to spend as much time with dealing with what the character has to deal with. In the first movie, we see the son, we see Nemo get taken. We relate to Marlin immediately. In this movie, we don't really relate to Dory wanting to find her parents because, she just wants to find her parents, and that's it. She's just like, I want to find my parents, and then they go, and it's very quick, it's very rushed, so it doesn't have that same emotional punch throughout the whole movie. However, towards the end of the movie, there's a huge scene. There's like a huge scene at the end of the movie, towards the end of it anyway, that is very emotional, very well done, very well paced, and it's done with very little dialogue. This movie's biggest message has to do with disabilities. The thing is that if you're different from other people, that doesn't mean you are actually different. That's just you just be accepting. You got to be accepting of those kinds of people and also be understanding. That's something that, honestly, there's a scene in this movie with Marlin, actually, where he has to go through this whole thing about just being understanding of Dory. It's obviously not Pixar's best movie. I don't think people are going to see this movie simply because it is the Finding Nemo sequel, and I think a lot of people, fans, are going to be satisfied. Me, I was satisfied. By the way, stay for the end credits of this movie. It is worth it. It's probably one of the most satisfying end credit scenes I've ever seen, so definitely stick around for that. Finding Dory, it's in theaters, go see it. I'm sure everyone my age especially is going to go see it. Bring kids, bring your parents, bring everybody. It's good. And it's one of the funniest movies you'll see this year.